Hi everyone, this is Krystal, and today I am working in my Life Crafted album for 2020, documenting a few events that happened over the weekend. I have my photos already printed out, and I have just some white cardstock cut down to the size of a page protector. That's what I'll be working on. I have my Weekender kit off to the side along with all of the stamps, and I also have a cut file. So this is one of the screens from March. I've cut it twice. Basically, I just reversed it in Silhouette Studio so that I could cut the back side. And I am gonna make a shaker pocket using one of the page protectors. This is one of the full-size, Traveler's Notebook size page protectors from Citrus Twist Kits. And I'm gonna create a shaker pocket using these screens and the page protector and just some little sequins mix that I created from some things from my stash. I have my fuse tool heating up off to the side, and I have all of my supplies ready to go. So I'm going to put you on fast forward and get started. So I'm going to start by going through the papers that are in the Weekender kit and picking out a few to put behind my photos. You can probably tell that there is a very clear color scheme here from my photos and the concert poster that I've printed out, and I've used that to choose the colors for my sequin mix as well. So I'm just going through the kit and trying to find things that are kind of in those same colors. Mostly I'm looking for cool tones, teals and pinks, things that will match with my color scheme, and also some black because there's a lot of black in my photos as well. So I've pulled out a few papers to choose from, and now I'm going to go through the ephemera pack and see what I can find that works. Of course, I picked these photos to use with this kit for a reason. This kit is all about weekends and having fun on weekends, and that's what these photos are of. It's of a local concert series that happened just this last weekend. My band played on Friday night, and another local band played on Saturday night. There was also a band on Thursday. I unfortunately wasn't able to see them, but that's what these photos are of. That's the story I have to tell. This kit is perfect for that. Of course, there's also lots of kind of relaxing weekend things in this kit as well, but that's not the story I have to tell today. So I'm just pulling out a few things from the ephemera kit. I'm going to set those aside just so I have a more limited number of things to pull from, and I'm not quite as overwhelmed as I start to work on my pages. And then I'm going to figure out which of these papers I want to add behind my photos. So my plan is to leave the photos where they were at the beginning on the page, and just to add a little bit of a map behind each one of them and leave some white space down the side for embellishing and for some title work. So I've chosen a couple of the papers. I really like the way that they look. I've chosen this teal one and a black and white stripe one, and I'm just trimming them down a little bit. So I'm not measuring anything here. I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want them on the page and how much space I want to the right and left of each photo. And I'm just going to lay it down kind of where I want it and then trim off the excess here in a minute. And I've just done that with the first one, and then I'm going to use that to line up the rest of them. And you'll see here in a little bit as I get to the third photo that it doesn't quite work out the way I had planned or the way I had hoped, and they aren't perfectly aligned. But because I'm going to add that screen and shaker pocket in the middle between the two pages, you're not actually going to even be able to notice it by the end. So it's not a big deal. I'm okay with the imperfections. I'm just going to work with it and move on. So I've adhered down those two photo mats on the left-hand page, and I'm just going to go ahead and punch out the holes using my hole punch, just so I can make sure that I don't add embellishments and end up having to punch through one of the embellishments. And now I'm going to mat the third photo. So here is where I run into just a little bit of a problem. I'm going to use the left-hand side to line it up in the same position as the photos on that side of the page are lined up. And then when I go to adhere it down to the right-hand side of the page, I realized that when I trimmed that teal paper, I didn't cut it exactly in half, and one side was wider than the other, so it ends up sticking out or sticking down the page a little bit further than the other side. There you can see. So I actually don't even realize it yet. Not until I go to add my journaling do I realize that they don't line up. But it's okay, like I said, because the screen will be in between, you won't be able to notice. So it may drive me crazy right now looking at it, but in the end, it turns out fine. So, okay, I'm going to add a title to each side of the page using these gorgeous gold alphas from the Weekender kit. I'm spelling out Friday for the photo on the left-hand side, and then I'm going to spell out Saturday for the photo on the right-hand side. And I love these alphas so much. I love this font. They are actually available in the shop individually, and I'm seriously considering buying a few more for my stash just because I'm already working through them pretty quickly. And yeah, they are my new favorites. So just so you know, they are there in case you're like me and want lots of them. So I've chosen a couple pieces of chipboard to add to my photos. I'm going to layer those with some other embellishments, but first I'm just going to play around and make sure I know what I want to add to the page before I adhere anything down and can't change it later. So I'm going to take a label and layer up the chipboard with a label, and then I'm going to end up stamping on each of those labels just to add an additional sentiment to the phrases that are on those chipboard pieces. So I have one that says bold moves and one that says it's time for fun. And I'm just looking through the stamp sets to find another phrase that I can add to those sentiments to make them apply to the photos that I'm going to add them to. So I'm going to choose a stamp that says time to play and another one that says out on the town. So I'm going to use the it's time to play under the bold moves, and I'm going to add that to the photo of my band. And then I'm going to use the other one under it's time for fun and add that to the photo of the other band. So I'm just trying to decide what ink color. I had thought I would use tones of blue or teal just because they are the predominant colors on this page so far, but I really wanted to bring in some of those purpley pink tones that are in the photos. So I went through my stash of inks and I found a couple to try out. I tried one kind of purpley color, and then I end up using this scrapbook.com ink. It's called Candy Shop Pink, and it's the perfect kind of fuchsia tone to work with my photos. So that's going to bring in some more of that color. And I'm going to use it to stamp both of these sentiments on the labels, and then I'm going to layer them up with the chipboard, and then I can go ahead and adhere them to the corners of my photos. So I'm going to end up using that same color ink to stamp another sentiment, actually two more sentiments on the page, and that is going to kind of tie it all in together and make it all work out. So I'm working on another cluster right now. I'm using one of the cut aparts that says currently and then another label, and I'm going to add a couple stamps to each of those. And I'm thinking about adding one of those circle elements to the top photo there, but I don't end up using one. It just didn't quite look right to add the circle when I have so many kind of rectangles on the page. The circle just stood out a bit too much, so I decided to stick with the rectangles. And this is where I decided to stamp another sentiment on this label. There was one that says good times and crazy friends, and I thought that was absolutely perfect for these photos and for the story I have to tell. I got to hang out with a few of my girlfriends this weekend, and we had lots of fun, and we were a little bit crazy, so I thought that was pretty perfect. And then on the other one, the other label there that says currently, I'm just going to stamp out weekend. And that's from the This Is Life stamp set, I believe. Oh no, that is from the Weekender, from the stamp set that came with the Weekender kit. There's a little stamp that says weekend, and I'm going to actually use the teal ink for this one just because I wanted it to stand out from the other stamped images on the page. So I'm just testing out that stamp to make sure I get a clean, crisp image, and then I can stamp it on that label. And then I'm going to adhere the labels together just so I can make sure I get the spacing exactly the way I want it before I adhere it down to the page. I did the same thing with the chipboard. I stuck the chipboard to the label first before adhering the whole thing to the page. Again, that was just to make sure that I got it exactly in the right place. So I've printed my journaling using just on my computer. I've printed it onto one of the 6x8 papers from this kit, and I am going to add that to the bottom right corner there. I'm just trying to line it up with the other pieces, and that's when I realized that my other pieces didn't line up, but that's fine. I'm going to just adhere it there to the bottom and give myself a little bit of space in between, just like on the other side of the page. And then I can add this little tab that says words. I thought that was perfect to bring in some teal to this bottom part of the page, and also because it's it's my journaling, so it's just words. And with that done, I can set that aside and start working on my sequins shaker. So I'm taking one of the page protectors and just filling it with my little sequins mix. And like I said before, my fuse tool has been heating up this entire time, so I'm just going to use it to seal the top of the page. This is a super easy way to make a shaker pocket for your album. Once I make sure that that is well sealed, I can just trim off a tiny, tiny bit off the top of this page protector. It was just slightly taller than the screen that I'm going to adhere to the front and back of it, so I didn't want it to stick out. So I made sure to seal it just below the top opening, enough that I could trim off a little bit and make it fit the screen. So I'm going to use some red line tape to adhere that down, just because I don't want it to go anywhere. I'm not going to make you watch that whole process. It did take me quite some time to adhere all of those little pieces of red line tape. And once I have that done, I can just stick it to the front and then make sure that I punch the holes in the front side before I do the same thing to adhere the back side. So I'm going to punch those holes, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the back side with the red line tape. And I did add a little bit of roller adhesive where it was too skinny for the red line tape to work, but mostly it's stuck down with red line tape, so it's not going to go anywhere. So I was just testing out to see how it looked, and I really like the way that this page is coming together. There is a bit of a blank spot there on the right-hand side, so I want to fill that in with something. I thought about using one of the stamps from the This Is Life stamp set. I really wanted to use that kind of downtown scene, but it was just a little bit too big. It didn't quite fit. So instead, I'm going to add a couple more embellishments. I'm going to do kind of the same formula that I did on the other, or on the photos, that is, and add a banner piece with a phrase on it, and then stamp a sentiment in a label and kind of cluster those together in the bottom right corner. So I've chosen a banner that says, "Hey there, weekend." That's from the cut apart sheet. And then I'm going to add a label and stamp "It's time to go make stories for Monday" on that. And that stamp is, I believe, from the Traveler's Notebook set, the Traveler's Notebook stamp set from March. So again, using that Candy Shop Pink ink just to bring that to this part, that color to this part of the page, stamp that down, adhere the label to it, then I can adhere the whole thing down to my page, and then that's it. That is oh wait, no, it's not it. I decided to add a few puffy hearts just because I can't make a page without adding these beautiful hearts to it. I love them so much. So I'm just going to sprinkle them around, add them to each of the little label clusters that I have on the page. And then I will go in with my gold staples and add a staple to each one of those puffy hearts as well, just because I love the way it looks when you kind of squish down those puffy stickers with a staple. And then that's it for this page. I'm going to add it back to my album so you can see what it looks like all put together. And here are some close-up photos. So I will have all of the products I've used linked down below in the description box, as always. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you found some inspiration. I will see you all back here very soon.